Some nights, the forest doesn't want you there. Mia felt it the moment she stepped into Whispering Pines, but she didn't listen. Mia Parker, 28, pulled her old Jeep to a stop on a dirt road just outside Whispering Pines, Oregon. She was a photographer, always chasing the perfect shot, and tonight, she wanted the stars. The forest was her canvas. Tall pines stretching into the dark, their needles soft underfoot, the air crisp with the scent of sap. She'd heard the local stories, tales of a thing called the Wraith, a ghostly figure that haunted the woods. Old folks at the diner warned her to stay out after dark, but Mia just smiled. She'd camped in plenty of forests. This one was no different. She grabbed her gear, a camera, a tripod, a flashlight, and her phone, and slung her backpack over her shoulder. The moon was a thin sliver, barely lighting the path as she walked deeper into the woods. The pines whispered, their branches swaying in a gentle breeze, like they were sharing secrets. Mia set up a small camp near a clearing, just a tarp and a sleeping bag. She didn't need much. Her plan was simple. Hike a bit, find a good spot, and shoot the sky until dawn. The forest was quiet, too quiet.
No
No critters rustled in the brush. Mia noticed it as she walked, her boots crunching on pine needles. She shook it off, focusing on her camera's viewfinder, framing the stars peeking through the canopy. The air felt heavy, though, like someone was watching. She glanced over her shoulder, seeing nothing but shadows. Just the woods, she whispered, her voice swallowed by the dark. Half a mile in, she found her spot. A small rise with a clear view of the sky. She set up her tripod, adjusted the lens, and took a few test shots. The stars sparkled, sharp and bright, but something felt off. The breeze had stopped, and the whispers of the pines were gone. Her flashlight cast a weak beam, barely cutting through the fog that was creeping in, soft and gray, curling around the trees like fingers. Mia froze when she heard it. A snap, like a branch breaking, maybe 50 yards away. She swung her flashlight, the beam shaking in her hand. "Hello?" she called, her voice small. No answer, just the echo of her own words. Probably a deer, she told herself, but her heart was pounding. She turned back to her camera, trying to focus, when another sound came, closer this time. A low, steady scrape, like something dragging across the ground. She aimed her flashlight at the trees, her breath catching. There, just at the edge of the light, stood a figure. It was tall, too tall, maybe 8 feet, thin as a skeleton, with arms that hung past its knees. Its skin was gray, like ash, and its eyes, its eyes were white, glowing like twin moons. Mia's mouth went dry. She couldn't move, couldn't scream. The thing didn't move either, just stood there, staring, its head tilted like it was curious. Her hands fumbled with her camera, instinct taking over. She snapped a shot, the flash bursting in the dark. The figure was gone, like it had never been there. Mia's legs shook as she checked the camera's screen. The photo was blurry, but it was real. A tall, gray shape with those awful white eyes. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't a trick of the light. Something was out there, and it had seen her. Mia grabbed her gear, her flashlight bobbing as she hurried back toward camp. The fog was thicker now, clinging to her skin, cold and damp. Every step felt wrong, like the forest was shifting around her. She heard it again. That scraping sound, slow and deliberate, coming from behind. She didn't look back. She couldn't. The camp was close, maybe 100 yards, but the pines seemed to stretch on forever. Their whispers louder now, like voices she couldn't quite hear. When she reached the clearing, her tarp was untouched. Her sleeping bag still rolled out. But the air was different, heavier, like the forest was holding its breath. Mia dropped to her knees, clutching her camera, the photo of the wraith burning in her mind. She wasn't alone out here, and whatever that thing was, it wasn't done with her. Mia's hands shook as she stared at the camera screen, the blurry image of the wraith staring back. Those white eyes, glowing like dead stars, felt alive, like they could see her through the lens. She was alone in her camp, the forest too quiet, the fog wrapping around her like a cold blanket. Whispering Pines wasn't just a forest anymore. It was a trap, and she'd walked right into it. She sat on her sleeping bag, the tarp above her rustling in the faint breeze. Her flashlight lay beside her, its beam weak, barely pushing back the dark. The photo was real. She hadn't imagined it. The wraith was tall, its gray skin stretched tight over bones, its arms too long, like they could reach across the clearing. Mia's breath hitched. She wanted to pack up and run, but her jeep was a mile away, and the forest felt different now, like it was watching her every move. She forced herself to stand, gripping her flashlight. "Get it together," she whispered, her voice shaky. She'd been in tough spots before, storms, bad hikes, but nothing like this. The local stories about the wraith echoed in her head. A ghost, they said, or something worse, haunting the pines for centuries. Mia hadn't believed them. Now she wasn't so sure. She checked the photo again, zooming in. The wraith's eyes weren't just white. They were empty, like holes cut into the night. Her stomach twisted, but a part of her, the part that chased perfect shots, was curious. What was it? Why was it here? She shook her head, trying to focus. She needed to move to find the path back to her jeep, but first, she had to know if it was still out there. Mia stepped away from the camp, her flashlight sweeping the trees. The fog was thicker, curling low, making the pines look like ghosts. She walked toward the spot where she'd seen the wraith, her boots sinking into the soft earth. Every sound, her own breathing, the crunch of leaves, felt too loud. Then she saw it. A mark in the dirt, long and narrow, like a footprint but wrong. It was too thin, with deep scratches at the toes like claws. She knelt, her flashlight shaking, and found another, then another, leading deeper into the forest. Her heart said run, but her head said follow. Just a little, she told herself, just to understand. The tracks wound through the pines, the fog swallowing the world around her. She moved slowly, her camera strapped to her chest, ready to snap another shot. The air grew colder, the whispers of the pines louder, like soft voices she couldn't make out. Mia stopped at a tree, its bark carved with a strange symbol. A circle with 3 lines slashed through it, rough and deep, like it was cut with a knife. She touched the symbol, her fingers trembling. It wasn't old. The wood was still damp, the cuts fresh. "What are you?" she whispered, not expecting an answer. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, startling her. She pulled it out, but the screen flickered, static dancing across it. No signal, just noise, and for a second, she swore she saw those white eyes flash on the screen. She dropped it, gasping, and backed away. That's when she heard it. A low, hissing sound, like air leaking from a tire, coming from the fog. Mia swung her flashlight, the beam catching nothing but trees. The hiss came again, closer, from her left, then her right, like it was circling her. She turned, her boots slipping in the dirt, and there it was, the wraith, standing maybe 20 yards away, half hidden by the fog. Its gray body blended with the pines, but those eyes burned, locked on her, unblinking. Mia's legs froze. The hiss grew louder, vibrating in her chest, like it was inside her head. The wraith didn't move, but its head tilted, slow and deliberate, like it was studying her. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body wouldn't listen. Then her flashlight flickered, the beam dying for a second. When it came back, the wraith was closer. 10 yards now, its long arms swaying, its mouth a thin, black slit. She bolted, running back toward camp, branches snagging her jacket. The hiss followed, steady, never slowing, like the wraith was gliding through the fog. Mia didn't look back. She couldn't. Her camp came into view, the tarp flapping in the wind, but the forest felt alive, the pines whispering her name. She dove under the tarp, clutching her camera, her breath loud in the silence. The hiss stopped, but the air was heavy, like the wraith was still out there, waiting. Mia knew one thing for sure. It wasn't just watching her. It was hunting her. Mia huddled under her tarp, her heart pounding so loud she thought it might give her away. The wraith's hiss still echoed in her ears. Those white eyes burned into her mind. Whispering Pines was no longer a place for photos. It was a maze, and she was the mouse. The fog pressed close, thick and cold, like the forest itself was breathing down her neck. She clutched her camera, the blurry photo of the wraith, proof she wasn't crazy. But proof didn't help her now. She needed to get out. She waited, listening, her breath shallow. The forest was silent again. No hiss, no scrape, just the soft drip of fog on the tarp. Minutes passed, maybe 10, maybe 20. Mia's legs cramped, but she didn't move. What if it was still out there, waiting? Finally, she peeked out, her flashlight's weak beam cutting through the mist. The clearing looked empty, her sleeping bag untouched, but something was wrong. Her backpack, left by the tarp's edge, was open, its contents scattered. Maps, snacks, a water bottle, strewn across the dirt. Mia's stomach dropped. She hadn't touched it. She crawled out, her hands shaking as she gathered her things. Her map was torn, jagged rips like claw marks. Her water bottle was crushed, the plastic crumpled like paper. And there, on the ground, was something new. Another photo, printed from her camera, lying face up in the dirt. Mia hadn't taken it, hadn't printed it. She picked it up, her fingers numb. The image showed her camp, the tarp glowing under her flashlight. And behind it, clear as day, stood the wraith, its long arms dangling, its white eyes staring straight at the lens. She dropped the photo, a small gasp escaping her lips. It had been here, right here, while she was running. It wasn't just hunting her. It was playing with her, leaving gifts to twist her fear tighter. Mia grabbed her camera, checking the memory card. The new photo was there, timestamped 10 minutes ago. Her knees buckled. She had to move, had to find the path to her jeep, but the forest felt alive. The pines whispering words she couldn't catch. She stuffed her gear into her backpack, keeping her flashlight low. The path back to the road was somewhere north, but the fog made every direction look the same. She started walking, her boots sinking into the earth, her eyes darting to every shadow. The air was colder now, sharp against her skin. She hadn't gone far when she saw it. A faint trail, barely visible, winding deeper into the forest. It wasn't the way out, but it was something, maybe a hunter's path, maybe a way to safety. Mia followed it, her flashlight shaking. The trail led to a small shack, half collapsed, its wood gray and rotting. Vines curled over the walls, like the forest was swallowing it whole. A rusted lock hung on the door, broken, swinging in the breeze. Mia hesitated. The shack felt wrong, like it was part of the forest's game, but she needed shelter, needed a moment to think. She pushed the door open, the hinges creaking, and stepped inside. The air was damp, smelling of mold and something sour. Her flashlight swept the room, revealing a dirt floor, a broken chair, and a small table. On the table was a notebook, its pages yellowed, held together by a leather cord. Mia opened it, her hands trembling. The writing was messy, dated years ago, from someone named Elias, a hiker who'd come to Whispering Pines. "It watches you," one page read. "The wraith. It knows your fear. It feeds on it." Another page described a ritual, something about blood and a circle, meant to keep the forest safe. But it had gone wrong, turned the wraith into a curse. Mia's chest tightened. She flipped to the last page, where Elias had scrawled, "It's here. It's always here." The words stopped, the pen trailing off in a jagged line, like he'd been interrupted. She closed the notebook, her breath hitching. The shack was no safe place. It was a grave, and she was standing in it. Then it came, a soft tap on the wall like a finger testing the wood. Mia froze, her flashlight trembling. Another tap, then another, slow and steady, moving around the shack. The wraith was outside, circling. Its hiss faint but growing louder, like a lullaby from hell. Mia dropped to the floor, crawling under the table, her hands pressed to her mouth. The tap stopped, but the hiss didn't. It was right outside the door, waiting, and Mia knew it wouldn't leave. Not until it had her. Mia crouched under the table, her hands clamped over her mouth, trying to silence her own breath. The wraith's taps echoed in the shack, each one slow, deliberate, like it was savoring her fear. Whispering Pines wasn't a forest anymore. It was a prison, and the wraith was its keeper. The air was thick, sour with mold and something darker, like the shack itself was rotting from the inside. Her flashlight flickered, casting shadows that danced like ghosts on the walls. The notebook, Elias's notebook, lay beside her, its words about the wraith burning in her mind. This thing wasn't just a monster. It was a curse, and she was caught in its web. The tapping stopped, but the hiss came next, low and steady, seeping through the walls. Mia's heart raced. Her eyes locked on the door, expecting it to burst open. She couldn't stay here, not with that thing so close, but running felt like stepping into a trap. The floor beneath her creaked, and she noticed a loose board, slightly raised, like it had been pried up before. Her fingers fumbled, pulling at the wood, revealing a small crawlspace below, barely big enough for one person. It smelled of dirt and decay, but it was a hiding place. She grabbed the notebook and her flashlight, sliding into the dark, pulling the board back over her. The crawlspace was tight, the earth cold against her skin. Mia lay flat, her flashlight dimmed to a faint glow, afraid even that would give her away. Above, the shack was silent, but the hiss lingered, circling, like the wraith was sniffing her out. She opened the notebook, needing something to keep her sane. The pages were brittle, Elias's handwriting shaky, like he'd been scared when he wrote. "The wraith isn't natural," one entry read. "Settlers called it up, long ago, to guard the forest. Blood on a stone, a circle cut in three. They thought they could control it. They were wrong."
Mia esse trot tightened.
She turned the page, finding a sketch. A tall, gray figure with white eyes, standing over a pile of bones. Elias had written more. "It feeds on fear, grows stronger with every scream. The ritual woke it, but nothing puts it back." Her flashlight flickered again, the beam catching a carving in the dirt beside her. The same circle with 3 slashes, scratched deep, like someone had clawed it in their final moments. Mia's breath hitched. Elias or someone else had hidden here just like her, and they hadn't made it out. The hiss grew louder, closer, and then she heard it. A soft creak, the door of the shack opening. Mia bit her lip, tasting blood, as footsteps scraped above, slow and heavy, not like a man's. The wraith was inside. The boards groaned under its weight, dust falling into the crawlspace, stinging her eyes. She turned off her flashlight, plunging herself into darkness, her body trembling. The hiss was right above her now, sharp and wet, like it was breathing through a slit. Something scraped the floor, long and slow, like a claw tracing the wood. Mia's mind raced. She saw her mom's face, years ago, teaching her to stay calm in a storm. "Fear's just a feeling," she'd said. "Don't let it own you." But this wasn't a storm. This was a nightmare, alive and hunting her. The scraping stopped, and for a moment she thought it was gone. Then a voice, not a sound, but a pressure in her head, whispered her name. "Mia," it said, soft and cold, like frost on glass. "You can't hide." Her chest tightened, her lungs screaming for air, but she didn't move, didn't breathe. The footsteps circled, then faded, the hiss growing faint. Mia waited, counting seconds, her body aching from the cramped space. When she couldn't stand it anymore, she pushed the board up, just an inch, peeking out. The shack was empty, the door ajar, fog curling inside. But on the wall, fresh and raw, was that symbol again, the circle with 3 slashes, carved deep into the wood, like a promise. The wraith hadn't left because she'd escaped. It had left because it wanted her to run. Mia climbed out, her legs weak, the notebook clutched to her chest. The forest was still out there, waiting, but she couldn't stay in this tomb. She had to find a way out, had to make it to her jeep before the wraith came back. But as she stepped toward the door, the hiss returned, faint but growing, like a song only she could hear. It wasn't done with her. Not yet. Mia stumbled out of the shack, the carved symbol on the wall searing into her mind. A circle with 3 slashes, like the wraith's signature. The forest was a living thing now, pines whispering her fear back to her. She gripped the notebook, Elias's words about the curse heavy in her chest. The wraith wasn't just hunting her. It was feeding on her, growing stronger with every tremble. The fog was thicker, a gray veil that swallowed the stars, making whispering pines feel like a dream she couldn't wake from. She had to find her jeep, had to get out, but the forest seemed to shift, the paths twisting under her feet. She ran, her flashlight's beam bouncing, barely cutting through the mist. Her boots sank into the soft earth, each step harder than the last. The hiss was gone, but the silence was worse, like the forest was holding its breath, waiting for her to slip.
Mia esse lungsbarnd.
Her backpack heavy with the notebook and camera. She didn't know where she was going, only that she couldn't stop. The wraith's voice still lingered in her head, soft and cold, calling her name. Mia. It wasn't real, she told herself, but it felt like a hook in her mind, pulling her apart. The pines loomed taller, their branches clawing at her jacket. She tripped over a root, catching herself on a tree, her flashlight slipping from her hand. It hit the ground, the beam flickering but staying on, pointing at a patch of dirt. There they were, those tracks again, long and thin with claw marks at the toes. They stretched into the fog, fresh, like the wraith had just passed through. Mia's heart pounded. She grabbed the flashlight, her hands shaking, and forced herself to keep moving. She wasn't following the tracks, not on purpose, but they were everywhere, crisscrossing the ground like a map she didn't want to read. She pushed deeper, the fog so dense she could barely see 10 feet ahead. The pines seemed to move, their shapes shifting in the mist, like they were closing in. Mia's breath came in short gasps, her mind racing. She remembered her mom, years ago, teaching her to find north by the stars. But there were no stars now, just fog and shadows. "Keep going," she whispered, her voice barely audible. She had to believe there was a way out, even if the forest didn't want her to find it. After what felt like hours, she heard it, a faint trickle like water over stones. A stream, maybe, something to follow. Mia hurried toward the sound, her flashlight catching glints of wet rock. The stream was narrow, its water black under the fog, winding through the pines. She knelt by the bank, splashing her face, the cold snapping her back to focus. The stream could lead somewhere, maybe to a road, maybe to her jeep. It was a chance, and she'd take it. But as she stood, her flashlight caught something on the opposite bank. A single track, long and clawed, pressed deep into the mud.
Mia esse stomach twisted.
She swung the beam, searching, but the fog was too thick. Then the hiss came, soft at first, like a distant wind, growing louder, closer. She backed away, her boots slipping on the wet stones, and there it was, the wraith standing across the stream, its gray body half hidden in the mist, its white eyes glowing, unblinking. It didn't move, just watched, its head tilted like it was weighing her worth. Mia's legs trembled, but she didn't run, not yet. She remembered Elias's notebook, how the wraith fed on fear. If she panicked, it won. She gripped a rock from the stream, her knuckles white, and threw it into the fog, aiming past the creature. It splashed somewhere in the dark, and the wraith's head snapped toward the sound, its eyes narrowing. Mia turned and ran, following the stream, her flashlight bobbing, her heart screaming in her chest. The hiss followed, steady, like it was gliding behind her, never rushing, always close. She didn't look back. The stream curved, leading her deeper into the forest, but the fog made every turn feel like a loop. The pines whispered again, their voices sharper, like they were laughing at her. Mia's legs burned, her breath ragged, but she kept going, driven by one thought: survive. Then, through the mist, she saw it. A small cave, carved into a rocky hill, its mouth barely wide enough for her to slip through. It wasn't a way out, but it was a place to hide. She dove inside, scrambling into the dark, the hiss of the wraith fading behind her. But as she caught her breath, she knew the truth. Hiding wasn't enough. Not in this forest, not from that thing. Mia curled up in the cave, her back pressed against cold stone, her flashlight off to hide her from the world outside. The wraith's hiss lingered in her ears, those white eyes haunting her even in the dark. Whispering Pines was a game board, and she was the pawn, every move watched, every step measured. The cave was small, its air damp and heavy, smelling of earth and something sharp, like old blood. Her hands clutched Elias's notebook, its pages a grim reminder. The wraith didn't just kill, played, stretching fear until it broke you. She waited, counting her breaths, each one a fight to stay calm. The forest was silent. No hiss, no scrape, but that didn't mean the wraith was gone. It was out there, patient, waiting for her to slip. Mia's legs ached, her body screaming to move, but she stayed still, picturing her mom's voice. "Keep your head, Mia. Panic gets you nowhere." She wanted to believe it, but the forest wasn't a place for reason. It was a place for nightmares. After what felt like forever, she risked a peek, easing toward the cave's mouth. The fog was still thick, curling through the pines like smoke. Nothing moved. No eyes glowed in the dark. Mia crawled out, her flashlight kept low, its beam a faint whisper against the mist. The stream was nearby, its soft trickle calling her back, but she wouldn't follow it again. The wraith had found her there. She needed a new path, something to lead her to her jeep, to safety, if safety even existed here. She moved slowly, her boots soft on the ground, avoiding the tracks that had led her into this mess. The pines loomed, their branches swaying, whispering things she couldn't understand. Then she saw it. A faint trail, overgrown but real, marked by broken twigs and flattened grass. It wasn't much, but it was hope, and Mia clung to it. The trail wound through the forest, the fog thinning just enough to show her the way. She followed it, her heart pounding, every shadow a threat. The trail opened into a clearing, and Mia stopped cold. It was a campsite, abandoned, its tents torn and sagging, their fabric flapping in the breeze. A fire pit sat in the center, choked with ash, surrounded by scattered gear. A backpack, a smashed lantern, a single boot.
Mia stomach twisted.
People had been here, people like her, and they hadn't made it out. She stepped closer, her flashlight catching something carved into a tree. That circle with 3 slashes, the same symbol from the shack, fresh and deep, like the wraith had been here hours ago. She searched the camp, desperate for anything useful. In one tent, she found a flare gun, this plastic cracked but loaded with a single flare. She tucked it into her jacket, her hands shaking. There was a map, too, crumpled and stained, showing Whispering Pines and a road to the north. It wasn't far, maybe a mile, but the forest didn't care about maps. Mia folded it, shoving it into her pocket, when the hiss came again, sharp and close, cutting through the fog like a blade. She spun, her flashlight sweeping the clearing. The wraith was there, at the edge, its gray body blending with the pines, its white eyes locked on her. It didn't move, just stood, its long arms swaying, its head tilted like it was amused. Mia's breath caught, her hand fumbling for the flare gun. The hiss grew louder, vibrating in her chest, and then it moved. Fast, too fast, gliding toward her like a shadow given life. Mia fired the flare, a burst of red light screaming into the sky, lighting the clearing in a sickly glow. The wraith flinched, its eyes narrowing, and for a moment, it stopped, the flare's light reflecting in its gaze. Mia didn't wait. She ran, crashing through the camp, her flashlight bouncing, the map clutched in her hand. The hiss followed, steady, relentless, but she didn't look back. The trail was gone, the fog closing in, but she kept moving, driven by the faint hope of the road. She didn't see the rocks until she tripped, her ankle twisting, pain shooting up her leg. Mia fell, her flashlight skidding across the ground, its beam pointing at a narrow crevice in a rocky outcrop, just wide enough for her to squeeze through. She crawled, dragging herself inside, the stones scraping her skin. The hiss was right behind her. So close she felt it in her bones. But the crevice was too tight for the wraith. She pressed herself against the rock, her breath ragged, the flare's light fading in the sky. The wraith's hiss slowed, turning soft, almost gentle, like it knew she couldn't run forever. And in the dark, Mia realized it was right. Mia pressed herself into the crevice, the rocks biting into her skin, her twisted ankle throbbing with every heartbeat. The wraith's hiss lingered outside, soft now, almost tender, like a predator toying with its prey. Whispering Pines was no longer a forest, it was a labyrinth built to trap her, and the wraith was its master. The flare's red glow had faded, leaving only darkness and fog, the pines whispering her name in a language she couldn't grasp. Her flashlight was gone, lost in her fall, but she still had the map, the flare gun, and Elias's notebook clutched tight against her chest. They were her only anchors in this nightmare. The crevice was narrow, the air cold and damp, smelling of whetstone and something sour, like fear left to rot. Mia's breath was shallow, each exhale a risk, as if the wraith could hear it through the rock. The hiss had stopped, but she didn't trust the silence. It was out there, waiting, its white eyes seeing through the dark, through her. She shifted, her hand brushing something in the dirt. A piece of paper, torn and crumpled, like it had been stuffed into the crevice long ago. She unfolded it, her fingers trembling, using the faint light of her phone's dying screen to read. The paper was a page from Elias's notebook, or one like it, the handwriting frantic. The wraith isn't just a thing, it read. It's the forest's hunger, born from blood. The settlers cut their hands, spilled their fear on a stone, and woke it. Only blood calms it, but never for long. A sketch showed that circle with 3 slashes, drawn over and over, like an obsession. The last line was scrawled in a hurry. It knows your name. It always knows. Mia's stomach churned. Elias had been here, hiding in this same crevice, and the wraith had found him. Her phone flickered, the battery at 1%, but before it died, she saw it again, those white eyes, flashing across the screen like the wraith was inside the device, inside her. She dropped it, her breath catching, the darkness swallowing her whole. Then the voice came, not in her ears but in her mind, soft and sharp like a needle through silk. Mia, it whispered. Why do you run? Her chest tightened, her hands clawing at the rock, trying to block it out. It wasn't real, couldn't be real, but the voice kept going, slow, deliberate. You belong here, with me. Mia bit her lip, tasting blood, fighting the urge to scream. She saw flashes, her mom, smiling by a campfire, her apartment warm and safe, a stranger's face twisted in fear, bones scattered in the dirt. The wraith was doing this, planting images, pulling at her mind like threads. She squeezed her eyes shut, focusing on her mom's words. Fear's just a feeling, Mia. You're stronger than it. She repeated it, a silent chant, until the voice faded, leaving only the sound of her own ragged breathing. She opened her eyes, the crevice still dark, still tight. The paper lay in her lap, its words a grim truth. The wraith fed on fear, grew stronger with it. Running wasn't enough. Hiding wasn't enough. She had to fight, had to find a way to stop it, or at least survive to tell the world. Mia tucked the paper into her jacket, next to the map and flare gun. The road wasn't far, according to the map, but the wraith was closer. She could feel it, a weight in the air, like the forest itself was its eyes. She eased out of the crevice, her ankle screaming, the fog thick and cold against her skin. The pines stood silent, their whispers gone, but the ground was marked, new tracks, long and clawed, circling the rocks. The wraith had been here, inches away, while she hid. Mia's heart pounded, but she forced herself to move, limping along the trail, the map her only guide. The road was out there, somewhere, and she'd find it. She had to. But as she stepped forward, the hiss returned, sharp and sudden, like a blade drawn from a sheath. Mia froze, her eyes scanning the fog. The wraith was close, its white eyes glowing through the mist, its gray body a shadow among the pines. It didn't charge, didn't lunge, just stood, watching. Its head tilted like it was daring her to run. Mia gripped the flare gun, her hands steady despite the fear. This wasn't just a chase anymore. It was a dance, and the wraith was leading. Mia stood frozen, the flare gun heavy in her hand, her eyes locked on the wraith's glowing white gaze. The fog curled around its gray, skeletal frame, making it seem less like a creature and more like a piece of the forest itself. Whispering Pines was its domain, every pine, every shadow bending to its will. The wraith's hiss was a low hum now, weaving through the mist, pulling at Mia's nerves like a thread about to snap. Her ankle throbbed, her body screamed to collapse, but she held her ground. Running had only tightened the noose. This time she'd face it. The wraith tilted its head, its long arms swaying, claws glinting in the faint light. It didn't move, but its voice slithered into her mind again, soft and cold. "Mia," it whispered. "Stay." Her stomach twisted, the words like ice in her veins. But she thought of Elias's notebook, how the wraith fed on fear. She couldn't let it win, not like this. She tightened her grip on the flare gun, her other hand clutching the map, its crumpled edges her only hope. The road was close, maybe half a mile if she could just break free. She took a step back, slow, deliberate, her boots soft on the dirt. The wraith's eyes narrowed, its hiss sharpening, like a warning. Mia's heart pounded, but she kept moving, her eyes never leaving its gaze. The pines whispered, their voices louder, like a crowd watching a fight. She remembered her mom, her calm voice in a storm. "You're stronger than you know." Mia wasn't sure she believed it, but she had to try. For herself, for Elias, for whoever else this thing had taken. The wraith lunged, a blur of gray, its claws slicing through the fog. Mia fired the flare gun, a scream of red light bursting into the sky, bathing the forest in a bloody glow. The wraith recoiled, its hiss turning to a shrill wail, its eyes squinting against the glare. Mia didn't wait. She ran, her ankle screaming with every step, the map flapping in her hand. The road was north, the map said, and she could hear it now, faint but real, the hum of a car, somewhere through the trees. The hiss returned, closer, relentless, like the wraith was gliding through the fog, unbothered by the flare's light. Mia crashed through the pines, branches snapping against her face, her breath ragged. The forest fought her, roots tripping her, fog blinding her, but she kept going, driven by the sound of that engine. The wraith's claws scraped a tree to her left, then her right, like it was hurting her, playing its final move. Its voice stabbed her mind again. "You can't leave." Mia gritted her teeth, pushing the words away, focusing on the road, on survival. She stumbled into a clearing, the fog thinner, the pines parting to reveal a strip of asphalt glinting under the flare's dying light. The road. Mia's chest heaved, hope flaring despite the pain. Headlights flashed in the distance, growing closer, a truck's rumble cutting through the silence. She waved her arms, shouting, her voice hoarse. "Help! Please!" The wraith's hiss was right behind her, so close she felt its breath, cold and sour, on her neck. She spun, expecting those white eyes, but the fog was empty, the creature gone, like it had melted into the air. The truck screeched to a stop, its driver, a grizzled man in a flannel jacket, leaning out. "You okay?" he called, his eyes wide. Mia collapsed against the door, gasping, her words tumbling out. "Something's out there. It's after me." The man didn't question her, just opened the door, pulling her inside. The truck smelled of coffee and motor oil, warm and real, a world away from the forest. Mia clutched the map, the notebook, her camera, proof of what she'd seen. As the truck pulled away, Mia looked back, the pines fading into the fog. The wraith was there, standing at the road's edge, its white eyes glowing, unblinking, its gray body half hidden by the mist. It didn't chase, didn't move, just watched, its hiss a faint echo in her mind. The driver didn't see it, his eyes on the road, muttering about kids getting lost in the woods. Mia didn't argue. She sank into the seat, her body shaking, the weight of whispering pines still clinging to her. She'd made it out, but the forest wasn't done with her. Not yet. Mia sat in her apartment, the city's hum a distant comfort, but the weight of whispering pines clung to her like damp fog. 3 weeks had passed since she'd escaped, since the truck driver's headlights pulled her from the forest's grip. Her ankle was healing, the bruises fading, but the scars inside were raw. The wraith's white eyes haunted her dreams. His hiss a whisper she couldn't shake. She'd left the forest, but it hadn't left her. Not really. Her camera sat on the table, untouched, the photo of the wraith still on its memory card. She tried to delete it, but her hands wouldn't obey, like the image had a hold on her. Elias's notebook lay beside it, its pages worn from her reading, searching for answers. The settler's ritual, the blood, the circle with 3 slashes, it was all real, a curse that turned the forest into a predator. Mia had gone to the library, scoured old records, and found whispers of missing hikers, strange sightings in Whispering Pines going back centuries. The wraith wasn't a story. It was a truth, and she'd walked into its jaws. She told no one, not her friends, not the police. The truck driver had believed her enough to get her to a hospital, but the doctors called it shock, a trick of the mind. Forests do that, one said, scribbling a prescription. Mia didn't argue. How could she explain the voice in her head, the tracks, the photo? She kept the notebook hidden, wrote her own notes, filling journals with every detail. The fog, the hiss, the way the wraith moved. Someone had to know, had to warn others. But her words felt small against the forest's shadow. The city should have been safe, its lights and noise a shield, but Mia felt it. A prickle on her neck, like eyes watching from the dark. She'd wake at night, heart racing, certain she'd heard that hiss outside her window. Shadows moved in her apartment, too quick to catch. Gone when she turned on the light. She started checking the locks twice, then 3 times, her hands shaking. The wraith was hundreds of miles away, locked in Whispering Pines. It had to be, but doubt gnawed at her, sharp and cold. One evening, she found it. A mark on her door, scratched into the wood, faint but unmistakable. A circle with 3 slashes, just like in the forest. Mia's breath stopped, her fingers tracing the lines, rough and fresh. It wasn't there yesterday. She grabbed her phone, snapping a photo, her hands trembling. The mark was real, not her imagination, not a dream. She searched her apartment, checked the windows, the fire escape, but found no tracks, no sign of anyone. The city was loud outside, cars honking, people laughing, but her world was silent, heavy with the forest's weight. She burned sage, lit candles, anything to push the fear away, but it didn't help. The journals piled up, her handwriting messier, words spilling out like a plea. She sent emails to folklore experts, anonymous, begging for answers, but they called it a myth, a tale to scare campers. One night, her phone buzzed, a new photo in her gallery, one she hadn't taken. It showed her apartment, the table with her camera, and in the corner, a gray shape, its white eyes glowing. Mia dropped the phone, her scream caught in her throat. Now she sat by her window, the city lights blurred by rain. The journals were scattered around her. Elias's notebook opened to that sketch of the wraith. She was alone, her friends too worried to visit. Her mom's voice just a memory. The rain tapped the glass, steady, like the forest's rhythm. Mia felt it again, that prickle stronger now, like a hand brushing her spine. She turned, slow, her heart pounding, and looked at the window. There it was, the wraith, standing in the alley below, its gray body half hidden by the rain, his white eyes staring up, unblinking. The hiss filled her mind, soft and final, like a door closing. Mia backed away, her hands fumbling for the flare gun. But it was useless here, in this city, in this life. The tapping started, not on the window but on her door, slow and deliberate, like it had all the time in the world. Whispering Pines was far away, but its curse had followed her, and Mia knew, deep down, it would never let her go.